Prayer first. Thank God, thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
So moved. Can you hear me?
I can hear you as well.
To enable audio control, please enter your audio pin followed by the pound.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Chairman. Thank you. Hopefully my son will. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Chairman, to serve. I will not be a stranger. The only reason why you guys don't see me is because I'm here in Texas while my husband is continues being treated. We actually suffered a little bit of a setback, but all is well and things are going well. I had planned on traveling to Pensacola. Unfortunately, it's just hitting on all sides, but my sister, who teaches in Pensacola, unfortunately has COVID and she's currently in a fight in ICU at Sacred Heart. So all that know the power of prayer, I do solicit prayers for her. So I'm just on standby for when I really need to come to Pensacola. So my apologies for not being in attendance. Congratulations, Mr. Williams. I'm sure he'll do a great job, and I'll definitely be there to continue to be of service as soon as I finish dealing with all these family medical crises that have just arisen in 2020. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for recognizing our staff. They do so much, and certainly in the last year, what they have done has been a huge benefit to the community. Anytime they get recognized, we all benefit. The next is a Special Districts 2020 Technology Innovation Award winners noticed. Mr. Woody.
There is an organization or a public journal put out for those folks who work in government technology, be it for municipal, county, state, or even federal level organizations. And the Government Technology magazine puts out some recognition or recognizes its various members for achievements on a given program. It's a program sponsored through AT&T. This most recent year, our very own IT department, led by John Donna, applied for and received recognition as a Special District Program Award winner in 2020. This Technology Innovation Operations Award went to John and his staff for the work they did in support of our staff who were working remotely, not only those who had simple VPN connections, but the much more complicated task involved with our customer service staff who had to not only have VPN connections, but also had to have connections with the various systems that we use to track metrics to be sure that we're able to not only transact the business, but also keep track of our customer service performance as well. So that's a whole order of magnitude more complicated than a regular VPN connection. So with that, I would ask John, if you and your staff would come up, and I'd like to present that to you.
Oh, wow. You know, on a personal note, yesterday they had the first vaccinations with the new coronavirus vaccine, and I find it remarkable what scientists have done in this world, coming together and working cooperatively across borders with no interest in race or party or anything else to do this incredible thing, to come up with this vaccine. But I think we lose sight of the incredible things that many people were called upon to do in very short order that should have taken many, many times as long, that kept this utility going. It's nice to see that recognition. Mr. Don, thank you for what you and your staff did to keep us going and also to keep our employees safe during this. This is a well-deserved award. Item G is our Recycle Star Award, and instead of walking the long distance, I think I'm going to ask Mr. Stevens to pick a number between 1 and 21. Mr. Stevens, would you do that? Maybe he can't hear me.
I've got that number. Do you want me to hold up my fingers or?
You can just say it. We can hear you.
Okay, 7.
Number 7. Lucky number 7 is Jack Griffin. So, Mr. Griffin, you will be rewarded for your excellent efforts in recycling and get all kinds of accolades. Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for doing that. Item
Thank you.
7 is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, the organizational minutes from November 17th, 2020, and the regular board meeting minutes of the same day. Do I have a motion, or does anyone have any changes? Mr. Perkins?
Approval.
It's moved to approval. Is there a second? Mr.
Second.
Williams?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please vote on both sets of minutes. And will you indicate by nodding or thumbs up, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Stevens on the minutes? Can you hear me, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Stevens? We're voting on the minutes. Can
I
you
can.
indicate by a thumbs up? There we go. Okay, good. Thank you. Good, got it. And it passes unanimously. The next item is the report of ECUA Citizens Advisory Committee of December 8th. Mr. Williams, will you make the report? We didn't prepare you for this, did we?
No, you did not. What do you report of the ECUA Citizens Advisory Committee? No, the presentations that were made, you just want a brief summary of?
Typically, what whoever chaired the meeting will just say we're on item 9, the consent agenda, read all the recommendations and the votes, and then we vote on them.
Okay.
So if you'll go to the green page, what you'll typically do is say that we met on this day, and then itemize F, G, H, and then you will move approval of those items. Sorry, we didn't prepare you in advance.
Okay. On the go,
Certainly my apologies.
we are yet learning. And for item 8 on the agenda, we'll talk about the ECUA Citizen Advisory Committee that I chaired on Tuesday, December the 8th at 3 p.m. Items brought before the committee were the inflow and infiltration presentation by Mr. Don Palmer, Deputy Executive Director of Engineering and Environmental Services. Also, we had a presentation for item G, for Recycle Coach app by Mr. Randy Rudd, the Deputy Executive Director of Shared Services. Both very informative presentations. And we brought before the board, or before that committee, item H, adoption of General Resolution number GR20-71. General resolution authorizing the award of contract with La Hoist North America for bagged hydrated lime at $323.84 per ton. Motion was made and approved by a vote of 12-0. Now I would go back to,
Now you just move the approval of item H.
okay, very well. Then I make a motion, I'll move that we approve item H from item H of 8H,
Yeah, yes,
from the CAC meeting.
yes,
Okay,
that's
very
correct.
well.
You're very quick on your feet, Mr. Williams, thank you.
I
Is there a
second along with the corresponding resolution.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. And seeing no lights on, please vote. And Mr. Stevens and Ms. Campbell, if you will vote on this as well, if you want to give a thumbs up or thumbs up, okay. And it passes 5-0. And in the next few weeks, we'll decide what we're going to throw at you at the next meeting, Mr. Williams. Okay, item 9 is the consent agenda, and I will read through the topics, and if anyone wants to pull any of these for special consideration, you may do so. The first item is adoption of General Resolution Number GR 20-72, a general resolution utilizing an Escambia County, Florida contract to purchase unleaded and diesel fuel from Cougar Oil, Inc. in a total amount not to exceed $800,000. Item 9B, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 20-73, a general resolution authorizing appropriation of funds for Ryder truck lease for calendar year 2021. And item 9C, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 20-74, a general resolution authorizing the acceptance of bid and awarding contract, authorizing the executive director to execute a contract with Brown Construction of Northwest Florida, Inc. for $329,792.43 to complete the Pensacola Beach wastewater treatment plant manhole replacement and cured-in-place pipelining project, authorizing the use of funds from the budget established for CIP Project RS-883, Pensacola Beach wastewater treatment plant influent piping. Item D, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 20-75, a general resolution authorizing the acceptance of bid and awarding contract, authorizing the executive director to execute a contract with Talcon Group, LLC for $1,379,175 to complete the Central Water Reclamation Facility filter and chlorine contact chamber flow diversion, authorizing the use of funds from the budget established for this project, CS 529 CWRF filter and chlorine contact chamber flow diversion. Item E, adoption of General Resolution GR 20-76, a general resolution authorizing the acceptance of bid from Gulf Atlantic Constructors, Inc. in the amount of $211,309.57 for emergency replacement of antiquated water mains and transfer of project funds from CIP Project RW 906. And item F, adoption of General Resolution Number GR 20-77, a general resolution authorizing the payment of the last 3 months of a 12-month contract for the supply of lime from fiscal year 2021 operating funds. Mr. Williams, did you want to pull one of these?
Yes, ma'am, I would like to, Madam Chair, pull line item 9D.
D as in dog. A, B, C, and F.
Chairman, I move the consent agenda with the exception of item D.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. I want to make sure that Mr. Stevens and Ms. Campbell, you had no item that you wanted pulled from this, did you? Okay, seeing none. Okay, then we're voting on all the items except for D. Please vote. And if you all will do a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Okay, can you hear us? Would you indicate if you can hear? I'm not seeing a thumbs up on this or a thumbs down. It appears that they have may have lost audio, Mr. Don.
Vicky? We lost everything now.
Huh.
Hello?
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
We can't hear Vicky.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, can you hear us? Would you give a thumbs up if you can hear my voice now? Okay, so we're now voting on items 9A through F, not including D. So please vote by giving a thumbs up or thumbs down, please. Okay, okay, and it passes unanimously. Okay, we're going back to item 9D, the award of contract with Talcon Group. Mr. Williams, you wanted to hear that. Did you want an explanation for Mr. Woody? Press your microphone, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to know, first off, where's the location of this Central Water Reclamation Facility?
Mr. Woody, you may respond.
That's the abbreviation we use for the main wastewater treatment plant. They replaced the main plant that used to be downtown. When it was built up to the north, clear up by Ascend, we refer to it as the Central Water Reclamation Facility, or CWRF for short. So what we're talking about is, wastewater treatment is a series of several different steps, each of which addresses a certain component of the wastewater stream. In this particular case, we have a filter and chlorine contact, two of probably about 13 different steps in the wastewater treatment process that during the 2014 flood that we had completely overwhelmed this particular section of our wastewater treatment plant. It plugged, wasn't meant for the level of flow that was going through it. So what this proposes is a means by which under extreme events such as that we can bypass that particular section and avoid significant expenses such as you see here, $1.4 million to restore this area. So we received some grant funding that we applied through the Florida Department of Emergency Management to help assist us at a rate of $75.25. We had 3 bidders on it, and we're proposing the low bid go to the Talcon Group.
Did that answer your questions, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
Madam Chair, that was simply my question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Perkins?
I would like to move the resolution and say anytime we can get a 75% match on FEMA funds for our infrastructure, it's a really good deal. So it's a great boon for our ratepayers and hopefully help us in these future emergency weather events, because it seems like we have one of these 100-year events about every 2 or 3 years nowadays.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
If
And I
you can
believe Ms.
hear me, I
Campbell
would like to
seconded.
second.
You seconded, is that true, Ms. Campbell? Okay.
Yes.
Did you wish to speak on the item?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, then please vote on item D. And if you two will lower your thumb. Thank you. We're getting the hang of this now. And it passes 5-0. We come now to the budget report. Ms. Sheldon, if you will come up here, you have them on page 84, the monthly budget report.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're recognized.
I'm happy to report that we are now into fiscal 2021 on the budget report. I checked the revenues this morning just to see where we're tracking with that. We are right on track for the portion of the year we're into, about 2 months, 17%, give or take a little. And our expenses are on track as well for fiscal 2021. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Okay. Anyone wish to ask any questions regarding the monthly budget report? Probably too early to see any red flags.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, there are some line items that are a little higher than the 17%, but that's going to be things that we have to purchase at the beginning of the year that then smooth themselves out over the year. I think we talked about that last year.
Right.
Some of those things like subscriptions or dues and some supplies that we order ahead of time, and then we just use it during the year. So.
Sure. Let me just make sure Ms. Campbell and Mr. Stevens don't have any questions. Are you good? Mr. Stevens? Okay, good. Thank you, Ms. Sheldon.
Okay,
We'll look forward
thank
to your
you.
next report. Okay. The next item is the Executive Director's report. Mr. Woody.
I have two items. We'll begin with an item that's already in your agenda packet on page 86 regarding the Club Street sewer main replacement. Some emergency work needed to be accomplished in that area, and this is a notification of that. We did provide some information in an earlier board report, but this is the more formal notification. Actually, clear back in April, your previous interim executive director, Bill Johnson, approved an emergency repair, or actually replacement, of a damaged 6-inch clay line that's located on Club Street and runs north from there to Zaragoza. That's an area of town where we're very pleased to see a tremendous amount of redevelopment occurring at present. But because it is redevelopment, the infrastructure that is in that area is quite old. In this particular area, because they were redeveloping on existing lots, they didn't have to go through a normal platting process, and therefore our notification was limited to when building permits were already starting to be pulled and construction was initiated. So when we were receiving a request for sewer taps, we quickly identified that there was, because of the age and quite frankly even the diameter of the old infrastructure was inappropriate. So we replaced a 6-inch clay main that was in very poor condition with a larger 8-inch diameter main. And we used our annual services contractor, Warrington Utility and Excavating, to do that in order to not compromise the schedule that the developer was already pursuing in the area. They were nearly complete with some of their homes. We did, however, coordinate with some developers in the next block in an area where there were no sewers at all, and therefore there was going to be an expense by the developer rather than ECUA for extension there. So they contributed an additional $30,000 toward the construction and paid for that portion of their work themselves. In the end, we did have one change order to address some additional manholes and a request by the city for a more extensive milling and overlay and pavement repair in the adjacent area. So the final project cost was $146,000.
And we do not need to take action on this. You're notifying us.
No, it was done under emergency procurement authority under section 13-2,
Right.
paragraph 3B.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Woody. And if you would like to continue to 11B.
Yes, this item is, will take a little more discussion. I would like some feedback from board members as well. While I give this talk, I see Randy's already joined us at the podium. A little bit of history. First, the ECUA has been providing trash service, recycling services over in Santa Rosa County for a number of years, and we've done so under a franchise agreement. Under a franchise agreement, we're held to the service conditions and rates established under that contract. This, the preceding board gave direction for staff to not renew the franchise going into calendar year 2021. However, and we did that earlier this year with the expectation that Santa Rosa County would be issuing a new franchise agreement. Interestingly enough, over the last 6-7 months, several things that we had anticipated did not proceed. They did not issue a RFQ for franchise collections like we originally had anticipated. Then we got some feedback or information, mostly from the media, that they were going to extend their existing franchise in the south, which was with Waste Pro, and extend that to the north. Eventually, that didn't quite pan out either. Some competitors entered the market, and there were some legal debates back and forth in that service area about even another competitor, Adams Sanitation, coming into the market. But in the end, after Waste Pro pulled its suit, it turned out that what was left was effectively an open market in the Santa Rosa County area. So a open market does present quite a few opportunities actually for the ECUA, and that's the reason why we're discussing this topic this afternoon. What staff has identified, Randy has led the way, and Justin Smith has provided some calculations to determine some of the pros and cons of some alternatives. We've determined that we can achieve first and foremost our goal that we've placed on ourselves to bring adequate resources back from Santa Rosa to serve our needs in Escambia County by bringing trucks and staff back to add additional routes and meet our growing demands in this particular county. But at the same time, that would leave us enough resources to also compete in the open market in Santa Rosa County. And under an open market scenario, not being held to the requirements of the earlier contract, we can compete in the open market. So our proposal for your consideration and discussion would be to offer services to customers that we already have in Santa Rosa County at essentially the same rate that we are currently charging those in Escambia County. That's a monthly rate of $24.54. Also providing the same service levels. We would provide once weekly pickup of trash and once weekly pickup of recyclables, as well as the yard trash services, and be able to do so at a rate that even if we only receive in the range of 50 to 70% of our current customer base, we shall be able to cover our expenses, cover the remaining 2 years of debt service that we have for equipment that we had purchased for work in Santa Rosa County, and be able to bring a little bit of revenue back to Escambia County as well. So with that as a brief overview, I'm sure I probably missed a few important points along the way. I would ask Randy to add or point out or re-emphasize any points that he'd like to.
Mr. Rudd, you are recognized. Thank you, Mr. Woody.
As Mr. Woody mentioned, the important part of this proposal is that we would bring 5 trucks and drivers back to Escambia County. That is what the board approved earlier in the year so that we could increase the number of routes we operate by that number and reduce the length of the existing routes in Escambia County. And we are working on the routing right now to implement that, and the initial proposal shows that that will lower the route times to enough where we're not depending on overtime to complete the routes in Escambia County. As Mr. Woody said, we would reduce service in Santa Rosa from twice a week to once a week, but that is in line with what one of the other competitors is offering as well. So.
Well, I'm a free market capitalist, as are a number of my friends, so I love the idea of competing in the open marketplace. Let me ask you, so we're charging them the same rate we're going to charge in Escambia County, you said. There are more miles to get to them, and so our costs are greater if just because of is there a reason that we're not going to recoup the extra cost?
Well,
Can you
there's
hear
some
me, Lois?
differences. The tipping fees in Santa Rosa County are a little bit less. So
Okay.
there's,
Hello?
when we looked at it, the numbers
We
were
seem to have
very,
lost all
very
connection.
close. So we
Hey, Vicky,
thought
can
for
you hear me?
expediency, it makes a
can
lot
hear
of sense
you.
just to
Can
make
you hear
the
me?
rate same.
I can't hear you. I just can't hear the boardroom.
That makes sense. So you said
can
you're
hear you. I
expecting
can't hear the
about 50
boardroom.
to 70%
Let me send Bruce some
of our
text again.
customers to stay with. What
All
if
right.
we get overwhelmed? What if we get 95%? Can we still deliver these services?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I've had a number of people from Santa Rosa County express regret that we were no longer going to be doing this. They really valued our services, so I think this is good for Santa Rosa County.
We cannot hear the
As
boardroom.
long as we can meet the needs of Escambia County, which you say, and boy, I trust what you say, then I think this is good for the ECUA, good for Escambia County, and good for Santa Rosa County. Great work.
Thank you.
It's, okay, wait a minute, I see some hands behind you. Ms. Campbell. You are recognized, Ms. Campbell, if you want to try to make yourself heard.
Can anybody hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Yes.
I think it's just you and me, Vicky.
Yes. Go ahead, Ms.
Yep.
Campbell, and Mr. Stevens,
This
you
is
would be
ridiculous.
next. Huh. Please go ahead, Ms. Campbell.
Oh,
Not working.
We can hear you.
we lost everything, so I don't even know where we are. We lost Randy speaking, so we can no longer see the board.
Okay. I'm going to ask Mr. Rudd to just do a brief synopsis. If you can hear him, indicate. So if you can't hear him, also give me a thumbs down, okay?
Okay.
Just, sort of the
Yes.
brief.
We are proposing that we would continue to service Santa Rosa County on 1 day a week, garbage collection 1 day a week, recycling collection and yard trash and bulk waste as we are currently, and bring 5 trucks and drivers back to Escambia County to service the needs over here. We would do this at the same rate for both counties, and customers would have the option of opting out of our service in Santa Rosa County if they so choose.
Okay.
Were you able to hear that, Ms. Campbell?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Randy, so with the 5 trucks, we will be able to service Escambia County to the fullest.
We might have to turn it up. She's talking now.
I believe your question was, with the 5 trucks, we'd be able to service Escambia County with the new routes, and that is
Yes, sir.
correct.
And this will free up 1.2 million in debt service.
Correct. That is the debt service for the vehicles and the cans we purchased in Santa Rosa County, and that would continue to be paid out from revenue from Santa Rosa County. And that would free that up in the Escambia budget.
Thank you. Is recycling continuing to rise? As a commodity,
Yes.
is that continuing to rise, sir?
Yes, it has for the last 3 months.
Does that conclude your questions, Ms. Campbell?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevens, you are now recognized.
No, I think that sums it up pretty well. I caught the gist of it, Mr. Rudd. We're going to bring 5 trucks back to Escambia County to further serve our existing clientele base, and at the same time, I guess submit a bid proposal along with the other 1 to 2 sanitation companies to continue to provide service to a proportion of Santa Rosa County, and at the same time service $1.2 million worth of debt schedule in Escambia County. I think that was the condensed version, but I understood.
Yes.
Did you have further questions, Mr. Stevens?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good, thanks. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, quick question. So
Sure.
with the tipping fees will be less in Santa Rosa County versus Escambia County?
Yes, sir. The tipping fee in Escambia County is $45.06 a ton, and in Santa Rosa County, it's $40 a ton.
Okay. And then secondly, the duration, is this a temporary contract, a franchising agreement, or potentially a continuous of service after the 2-year period?
This is an open market agreement between the customers and ECUA until the county takes action to either initiate another franchise or take some other action.
And will we be in the market to try and be their provider after this 2-year period?
That would, again, be determined by whatever action Santa Rosa County takes. If they put a bid out, we would have the option of bidding on it the same way we did back in 2014 to continue the service, or if we looked at the terms and said we're not interested in bidding, we could do that as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see no more lights. Is there a motion to, I believe we need a motion on this, do we not, Mr.?
Madam Chair, may I point out one thing? I should have at the beginning acknowledged that we have had conversation with Mark Murray, the Santa Rosa County Assistant County Administrator, and shared information this morning. And we have acknowledged Mr. Andrew Hill, the Environmental Manager with Santa Rosa County, is also with us in the audience.
Oh, good, thank you. Did you want to be recognized? Okay. Please introduce yourself and give your address and punch the red. Okay, Mr. Rudd punched it for you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes.
Again, as Mr. Woody stated, my name is Andrew Hill, and I'm the environmental manager for Santa Rosa County. Earlier this year, Santa Rosa County received a letter from the ECUA. It was dated April 2nd, stating that it serves as an official notice that ECUA intended to allow their interlocal agreement for residential solid waste and recycling collection to end at the end of the current term and discontinue service in Santa Rosa County at that time. Also, I believe the ECUA board had a discussion at the June 23rd meeting, and the recommendation which was approved was for the board to authorize the existing interlocal agreement between Santa Rosa County and the ECUA to expire by not issuing a notice of intent to renew prior to July 1st of 2020. Therefore, the county's understanding is that the current resolution, which is resolution number 14-13 between the ECUA and the Santa Rosa County, and the residential solid waste and recycling collection interlocal agreement, would no longer be valid as of December 31st, 2020. In addition, the ECUA's current solid waste collections permit issued by Santa Rosa County will no longer be valid after that time. In order to begin servicing Santa Rosa County residents again, after the January 1st timeframe, the ECUA would need to apply for a new solid waste collections permit through the county, as well as they would need to develop a new resolution and a new interlocal agreement that discusses what the ECUA's intentions are as far as operating as a free market enterprise in Santa Rosa County. And then these agreements would then have to be brought to the Board of County Commissioners later in January for ratification. And that's Santa Rosa County's understanding of how this would work moving forward.
Mr. Perkins?
ECUA has been criticized in the past for not communicating well with other governmental entities. And, I think, and my thought is that, if I were commissioner in Santa Rosa County, I would feel like ECUA was partially responsible for the situation I was in over there regarding solid waste sanitation, since we did, as he said, decide, hey, we're not going to do it over here. It's not working out, and so we're going to part our ways amicably. And so I think that was done. So now the situation comes up where they've got a free market situation, and we say, oh, we can do it cheaper than anybody over there can do it, and it'll be a service to your citizens for us to do that. But in my opinion, it's kind of stepping in an area that we really shouldn't. I mean, I would not be willing to proceed with this unless it was enthusiastically supported and asked for by the Santa Rosa County Commission. Otherwise, I think we're kind of crossing some boundaries and stepping on some toes, and I just don't think it's the way to go. And sometimes I think it makes sense to focus on what we're providing in Escambia County as well. So my inclination is to be against it unless they're asking for it specifically and could use the help even for a short while in the transition period while they're moving to these other carriers and sorting everything out. And I called and left a voicemail on the Santa Rosa County Commission Chairman's phone saying, hey, look, we'd like to be helpful if there's any way we can. We think we might be able to help out in the transition. Didn't hear anything back, so that tells me there's probably not a lot of interest in it, and so I would, unless we're specifically invited. Now I know cost will go up because we're gonna demobilize potentially if we decide not to do it, and then we'd have to remobilize, and that would include more cost. But the way it currently is, I would not be in favor of us going over there and competing in the free market in Santa Rosa County uninvited. And on the flip side, I would be willing to, if we were asked to, if they thought it was a public service and they wanted us to, I would be willing to. But I also think that we need to focus on quality service here, and that and one thing I really want to make sure of is that as we finish up our contract over there, I want to make sure we finish strong. I don't want to say, oh, well, we're not going to provide service anymore, so we're going to be lazy, it's going to be late, we'll get to it whenever we get to it, and we'll get the cans out of there when we get the cans out of there, and leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth over there. I want us to get all the trash up, otherwise we leave the cans there, people are still going to put trash in it, so that's going to go on forever. So I want to get us all, if we decide to leave, which I think we should get all the cans up, get them up as quickly as we possibly can, get all the garbage up through the service area, pick up on time, remediate all problems people have, and then we leave courteously and quickly, and cause as little further inconvenience to the people who provide service from now on. I think it's a mistake to kind of barge in there undivided after some of what they're going through is probably due to what we had decided over here. That's just my thoughts.
Mr. Perkins?
All throughout this fall, we've been working on plans to do as you just suggested, Mr. Perkins, to finish strong, namely plans to be able to dump cans and pick up those cans all in one fell swoop, There are very coordinated, choreographed plans to do exactly that and continue to, to end on the good note that we have always had there. What has really changed is what's occurred as recently as just November 24th, literally just a few weeks ago, that created this open market scenario. I do have a question for Mr. Hill. I understand we have a existing waste haulers permit that is still valid through at least May. I don't know that it was tied to the franchise agreement in any way, shape, or form, and I don't know that any of the other competitor over there had to go through a process to apply for a new agreement. I understand that they were provided a permit to compete in the open market, and that's all that we're proposing here, if that's the case.
Correct.
Mr. Hill, if you would respond to
I
that, and
apologize.
also if you would respond to the questions that Mr. Perkins had regarding the Santa Rosa Commission and his interest by the Santa Rosa Commission.
Certainly, as staff, I certainly don't speak for the commissioners, nor do I know the will of the board, as it has not necessarily been discussed by the board. I do know that we have been working with another waste hauler to take over, so to speak. As we noted, or as I noted earlier, we received a letter in April that ECUA no longer wanted to service the area, so we did go down the road of beginning to find another collections hauler, if you will, to be able to take over the area. And we do have an agreement for them to do so. However, as Mr. Woody stated in the past several weeks, the board did vote to allow another company to have a permit to operate in the northern part of the county. To Mr. Woody's point, ECUA does have a solid waste collections permit to operate as the northern franchisee, as the northern area's franchisee. So, and it's stated on the permit that it's North End franchise is the geographic area where what the ECUA is allowed to operate as. So again, that permit would have to be modified and reapplied for. In addition to that, there is a resolution that basically states that the ECUA will be operating under under the RFP that went out, I believe, in 2014, and that's a resolution that basically is mutual agreement. Is a mutual agreement on both parties, which is the ECUA board and the Board of County Commissioners. Also, it's staff's understanding that there would have to be a new resolution created. And as I said, the ECUA's intentions would have to be stated within that resolutions, and as far as what their intentions are is operating as a free market enterprise.
Mr. Hill, let me ask you to do something. Would you mind just sitting in this front chair?
Certainly.
I need to see the people
Okay,
behind
I
you. And no, I
apologize.
mean, typically that's what you should do. Everything about this whole process gets a little weird. But we might want to ask more questions of you, so just kind of stay close. I saw Mr. Stevens' hand go up. Did I see yours go up as well, Ms. Campbell? Okay. I'm going to call on Mr. Williams first, and then I will get to Mr. Stevens and to Ms. Campbell. Mr. Williams, you're recognized.
Yes, ma'am. I understand Mr. Perkins' comments, particularly about going someplace where we may not be wanted, and I trust we will finish out our agreement as it is understood and written. But I'm trying to understand exactly why Mr. Hill is here. Are you representing the environmental services of Santa Rosa County to speak favorable for Escambia County in this open market? Yes, sir.
And you may respond, sure.
I apologize. So again, I work for Santa Rosa County, the Board of County Commissioners. So I'm representing Santa Rosa County and Santa Rosa County administration. I manage the central landfill at in Santa Rosa County, and also administer the franchise agreements. That's what I'm here. That's the capacity I'm here in tonight.
Just to make sure there's no misunderstanding
Sure,
about this.
sure, absolutely.
Okay.
And I would like to say, and I'd like to take a moment to thank, ECUA for the services that they have provided, the members of this board, the staff, two gentlemen in particular that I've had the privilege of working with, Mr. Keith Kiles and Mr. James Clark. Just two fantastic individuals. Can't say enough good things about these two gentlemen. They've been very responsive, and they've been a pleasure to work with. So thank you all very much for that.
Just stay close, but I'm
Certainly.
going to recognize the people who are behind you. Mr. Stevens, you are recognized, and Mr. Don's coming to help facilitate.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Okay, so and I want to make sure we're on the same page. Is Santa Rosa County or ECUA? I heard the statement made, may not be well received or welcomed or something there in Santa Rosa County as it relates to continuing to collect the north end of the county's garbage. And I think that's what I understood, and I apologize. There may be some audio in and out, but just following some of the Santa Rosa County social media blogs and friends and so forth of Santa Rosa County and social media blogs, we seem to be well liked over there, at least from what I understand. And I know of course, I may be a little prejudiced when it comes to service. We provide a great service. I've heard compliments about our service over there. In fact, I've heard from friends and several coworkers that live in Santa Rosa County. They were kind of a little disappointed that we pulled out of for our own reasons out of Santa Rosa County. So I'm not sure. I'm trying to look for the cons for us putting our name in the proverbial hat for bids to continue service north end of the county. I think we offer a superior service. To or at least as good, if not better, than anyone else bidding on the contract. So I'm just trying to figure out what would be the downside to us continuing to service the north end of Santa Rosa County, because if it's a possibility of us getting sideways with the consumer, I haven't. It's been my personal experience. I haven't heard any, or at least a large amount of negatives about our current service over there.
Mr. Stevens.
So there's my 2 cents on why we shouldn't, which I believe we should bid on this contract in northern Santa Rosa County and to continue servicing that area.
Mr. Stevens, let me clarify. Are you asking for an opinion from Mr. Hill as sort of a spokesman for Santa Rosa County, or are you putting that out to your fellow board members for discussion?
Well, I'm certainly putting out my opinion, but maybe twofold, Madam Chairman. Is there something I'm missing as far as a downside or a negative to us continuing to service that area? Is it Mr. Hill's opinion, perhaps, from what he understands in Santa Rosa County, that they may not want us over there? And then maybe a question to Mr. Woody or Mr. Rudd: what's the downside to us going over there and continuing to service that area? Of course, this is putting the cart before the horse if we happen to win the agreement, if it is ECUA's decision to bid on this contract.
Okay. Mr. Hill, if you could respond, and we understand that you don't necessarily speak for the Board of County Commission, but if you could offer your
Sure.
opinion.
Sure. I will not offer an opinion
Okay.
because those don't really mean a whole lot. As I've stated, I'm simply here to bring to the attention of what Santa Rosa County believes it will have to happen for ECUA to continue operations. There has to be a resolution, and there will have to be an interlocal agreement for ECUA to continue to operate outside of the franchisee, outside of its jurisdiction. That's my understanding. That's staff's understanding.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Woody, I think Mr. Stevens was looking to you for a response as well.
Yeah, that's Mr. Hill's last comment is the part I'm most confused about. This, and just for clarification, this is not a bid. We're talking about just competing in the open market, so it wouldn't require the submission of bids or anything like that. There's already an existing operating permit. I don't know that it's tied specifically to the franchise. I don't know if you've received legal interpretation from Santa Rosa County's legal counsel in that regard. And we're only talking about operating in the same areas that we have operated previously, even though it may be, well, there's a franchise for the south, and we have no interest or intentions, either one, to go in the south. We're only talking about the open area that isn't under a franchise agreement, in which two are already competing in the open market. We would be a third competing in the same open market.
Sure, and I understand that, but my understanding is that the service level and the pricing would change, correct?
Because it is the open market, that's the way
Correct.
the open market works,
So
yes.
the current interlocal agreement and resolution as it's written would have to be rewritten to express ECUA's, I mean, what your intention is, correct?
That's not my understanding or interpretation of the permit we have to operate over there, so.
Again, this is, I mean, it's certainly up for legal interpretation.
Sure, yeah.
But that's the county's understanding of what would have to be done. You know, there would have to be a new resolution and a new interlocal agreement ratified by this board and then ratified by the Board of County Commissioners. That's my understanding.
To partially answer and to do a follow-up with our own board here, as originally submitted to you for consideration, if there was a majority interest among ECUA board members to pursue this, what I would suggest would be that we provide first, almost immediately, literally within the next 1 or 2 business days, notification to our existing customers of our intentions, essentially through a letter that would state what the terms and conditions are, what the service level would be, what the cost would be, et cetera. But the follow-up steps for ECUA board would be twofold. At your January meeting, I would propose that we bring back a rate-setting resolution to formally set the rates for Santa Rosa County. That would be effective in February. Meanwhile, we would continue to bill at the same rate that we're currently billing at, albeit only for 1 month as opposed to a whole quarter, but at the same rate. And then the second item that would come back to the ECUA board, if you were interested in this proposal, would then be just an amendment to your FY21 budget that would reflect the anticipated revenues and expenses for sanitation services in Santa Rosa County for the remaining 3 quarters of the year.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
Who directed you to come today? Was it just as the
I was-
invitation of ECUA?
I was directed by the county's administration.
And did they sort of lay out what they wanted you to tell us?
We had discussions of exactly what I've discussed here today. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And did the administrator give you to believe that they were against our continuing to offer those services in Santa Rosa? And I know you're not speaking for the board, but you had a conversation with the administrator, and I'd like to kind of get a sense.
We've been working very hard as county administration and county staff to try to get the new waste collections program undergoing. Again, I'm not speaking for the Board of County Commissioners. ECUA coming back into the mix is going to complicate things extremely.
So you're wooing another suitor and the old girlfriend is.
Again, as I stated before, I appreciate all of the services that ECUA provided, and I also appreciate the business relationships and friendships that I have made with several of your employees, and I really appreciate all that y'all have done. If you're asking for my opinion, I feel like it's just going to complicate things even more. But again, that is not the opinion of the board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hill. And Ms. Campbell needs to be recognized, so I'm going to
Yes.
scoot you over, but she may have questions for you as well. Ms. Campbell, sorry, I'm finally getting to you. You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, every time I've ever gone on a date that I didn't want to go on, or the person I was going on the date with didn't want to go on, it just didn't turn out to be a very good date. So I'm going to say that I'd agree with Mr. Perkins wholeheartedly. I don't want to continue this line if we're not wanted in Santa Rosa County. We have plenty enough to do in Escambia County. We're growing at a rate that's unbelievable. I am confused whether we want to do something where we're not wanted. I do appreciate that we were trying to take care of this $1.2 million debt service, but it sounds to me like Santa Rosa doesn't want us there. Regardless of who the gentleman is speaking for, he's speaking for Santa Rosa County, and he's there speaking on behalf of their administrator. So I'm going to say I'd like to, I will not agree with this staying in Santa Rosa County unless Santa Rosa County wants us there. And I agree also with Mr. Perkins that I would like us to lead in a very orderly fashion. I do not want the citizens of Santa Rosa County to suffer because of our leading. I want us to pick up all the cans, enthusiastically finish our job over there, and carry on. And I appreciate Mr. Rudd wanting to, recover as much of this debt service as possible and to continue over there, but I just don't think we're wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Rudd, can you express, I understand the 2-year agreement to pay off equipment, the likelihood of receiving a contract based upon, and being able to continue beyond the next 2 years. That's kind of, I wouldn't want to go back for a short amount of time, only to leave 2 years later for the purpose of our benefit at the sacrifice of Santa Rosa County citizens. So is the likelihood, I know it's open market, I understand free enterprise, but the likelihood of us being able to maintain services at the rate that they would be willing to pay in Santa Rosa County should we win the open market bid?
Well, there again, like I said earlier, that depends on the actions taken by Santa Rosa County. If they issue another franchise and we weren't awarded the franchise, we would have to leave whenever that occurred. Who knows how long that could take, the issue of whether we have a permit or not, or, we asked for clarification from Santa Rosa County several weeks ago and never received a response. This is the first time we've heard these issues from Santa Rosa County. We were looking at it as if they are allowing other haulers to compete, we should have that same opportunity. Yes, I understand this complicates the issue for Santa Rosa County itself, but for the customers, if we're offering a service that they want at a reasonable rate, we should have that same ability as the other haulers. The interlocal agreement ends as of December 31st. The resolution ends as of December 31st. This is an entirely different business proposition. Yes, we have to have a legal interpretation whether our permit ends in May, which we pay every year, and it's good for a year. So that would have to be looked at by ECUA legal counsel, whether we could continue or not. But that's the status of it right now. But, we will you know, take whatever direction the board gives us. We're fine with either pulling out, and, you know, we will always do our job. I don't think anybody can accuse us of not doing our job. And we will make sure it's done properly right up to the last minute. You know, we didn't get that courtesy when we came in there. It was a mess. We did the best we could to make it work properly, and we've done that for the 5 years we've been there. But, you know, if the board direction is to pull out, we will do that, and we will do it as best we can. But if the board's decision is to proceed, I think we definitely need to get some advice from the ECUA attorney on some of these issues that we just heard from Santa Rosa County for the first time this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Rudd. Mr. Perkins?
I like the analogy of a date, you know, it's like, you know, we got some hesitant people going on this date. You know, we got the commission over there wooing some new people and us barging in on that date right in the middle of it, kind of uninvited. And to top that off, we've already got legal disagreements, you know, we haven't even really started moving forward. So right off the bat, we know that there are legal disagreements. The Santa Rosa County representative is here, and he's trying to thread the needle and say, hey, we really would prefer that you not come over there. He can't say that because, you know, because of politics, and that's a board decision, but he's basically saying ECUA coming will complicate things extremely. So I'm not sure that we want to do that to him. I think that we can provide a good service over there, an excellent service, better than anybody else, for a better price than anybody else. And if the citizens of Santa Rosa County and their elected representatives want that, we'll do everything we can to provide that. But short of that, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we take no further action toward providing sanitation services in Santa Rosa County unless expressly invited to do so by the Santa Rosa County Commission.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
Is that a second, Ms.
I will
Campbell?
second the motion.
Hold on, we're getting you. Ms. Campbell?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Okay, Ms. Second. Okay, any further discussion? Yeah.
I do agree with
I am inclined not
Mr.
to
Perkins of
support
Santa
the
Rosa
motion,
County
although you make a very
changes
good
their
case,
mind.
Mr. Perkins, you know, we get criticized about being a monopoly all the time, and people don't get to choose their rates and so forth. And here we have an opportunity to maybe be in an open playing field where people get a choice about whether to use our services or not to use our services, where they have an option. I'd like the ability to prove ourselves. Now, I don't want to go barge in where we're not wanted, but from my communications from citizens in Santa Rosa, they've liked our service. Before we slam the door on this date, I'd like to at least have maybe Mr. Woody and Mr. Rudd, you know, take some flowers over there and talk to the administrator and the attorney and say, you know, we think we can make this work if we're welcome here. And if the door's slammed in our faces, I think we accept it and gracefully leave. But, you know, I love that our staff has come to us with something innovative that can provide service to people who seem to be asking for it, that can use our infrastructure responsibly. You know, there's just a lot to like about what they have come to us with, and I don't want to give up on it just because there are obstacles. If it can work, I'd like to see it work. So. Mr. Perkins.
Well, you know, when I first heard about this, I asked our staff to go over there, meet with them, discuss it with them, and you know, see what happened. See what their feelings were. What were the results of that?
Mr.
Yeah, we've had some challenges. Ever since that November 24th event when Wasteboro pulled out, we've been making attempts to contact, and not only through staff, but also through our attorney. And I realize there's been a certain amount of turmoil that they've been in. I think they even let their county attorney go. That may or may not be related to these events, but that's probably complicated things. The first contact that we actually had with someone was when we spoke with, by email yesterday with Mark, and by phone this morning, and then Mr. Hill here this afternoon.
I appreciate all that and everything, but, you know, my opinion is, and I know this is a unique situation and we're pressed for time and everything, but, you know, I like to have all these details worked out at the staff level before things like this even come to the board. And I'm not saying anybody's at fault for that not being done. It's just the situation we're in and the time that we're in, because I don't like to embarrass another, you know, organization or ourselves. And yeah, I mean, I read the papers. I mean, they're returning things directly related to this situation. So, I mean, it's been very complicated over there, and I don't think we should complicate it any further for them. I'll, you know, support whichever way we go on it, but I tell you, I think it's a mistake. I think it's a serious mistake, and I hope we'll avoid it. You know, and I'm not shutting the door on it. That door is completely open as far as I'm concerned from our side, but we're not going to break it down. You know, if they call us tomorrow or the next day and say, hey, you know, we think we might need y'all even as an interim till we get things straightened out, I'm fully willing to help with that. You know, so to me, the door's open. It's not shut. I just don't want us to go barging in and breaking the door down if they don't want it.
Then, Mr. Perkins, let me make sure that I understand your motion, because it seemed to me that your motion indicated we were not going to do this. There was no open door, so if you will make your motion again, or reiterate.
Well, yeah, and maybe a better motion would be in place, because the wording said, take no further action toward providing sanitation services in Santa Rosa County unless specifically invited to do so by the Santa Rosa County Commission. So I'd be willing to change that if the second's willing to change it, but it would be basically to explore, you know, continuing to provide services for the Santa Rosa County area with the Board of Commissioners, and if they're in agreement to do so.
Okay, that changes everything, and that's a motion I can support. But Ms. Campbell, you were the second of the motion. Are you good with that? Okay, she's indicating. Okay, so with the new motion, it changes everything, and it obviously expresses some hesitancy to go where we're not wanted, but it keeps open the possibility of a dialogue. You agree with this? Okay, then, Mr. Woody, did you?
Yeah, one more closing comment. I certainly regret, I must apologize, but these weren't conditions under which that we established for ourselves, but it's the conditions we find ourselves in. And had no intentions of even making this a consideration until as recently as November 24th. And the complication time-wise that we find ourselves in is the month of December, if we're ending as we have been planning all along, is that when we pick up our last of our routes that last week, we'll also be picking up cans at the same time. So the challenge of doing that, but then turning around and returning cans, that's an expense and a really tough challenge. So the timeline, the fuse is pretty short for making this decision.
Mr. Rudd.
And I'd like to add that, you know, we basically have to let the customers know right away. So if you know, my recommendation is if the board's not fully supportive of this, I would say forget it and pull out. That's, you know, we are at a point where if we can't tell the customers this week that we're going to continue service, we should just go ahead and withdraw from Santa Rosa County. That's my position, there is a tremendous amount of work to be done either way, and we simply don't have time. Mr. Woody is absolutely correct. The events that transpired on November 24th and November 30th changed the entire dynamic over there. Yes, we were not interested in continuing the franchise agreement, but in an open market situation, the dynamics are completely different. Our hands are forced, because of the actions that's taking place in Santa Rosa County. So, we wanted to present the board the option of continuing. We can do that, but we don't have time to drag this out. I cannot do both. I either need to move forward or we need to continue with our plan to withdraw from Santa Rosa County.
I say the same thing in a slightly different way. We have plans to end strong, and provide good service to the very last day, pick up the cans on the way. So we need to either end strong or continue strong. The challenge is the time. And that's unfortunate hand that we've all been dealt, not only this board, but certainly Santa Rosa County and first and foremost, the customers in Santa Rosa County. It's tough, it really is.
Madam Chairman, if the second will allow, I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Okay. Ms. Campbell, Mr. Perkins has asked to withdraw his motion. Do you allow it? How about
Yes.
I think she said yes. Okay, so there's no motion on the floor. Mr. Perkins.
I make a motion that we continue as planned with withdrawing. If they hear all this and they want us to, real quickly continue it and give them some breathing room, I'll be glad, to grant the staff the authority to do that now, but continue withdrawing, unless asked. Yeah, I'd just make the motion. I don't even know if it needs a motion because we're already doing it. I would just say that we should direct staff to stay the course, and unless we hear a plea or something from Santa Rosa County, we just stay the course.
The gavel from me. I thought you were making a motion.
I made a motion to stay the course.
Okay, then you said.
Well, I
you
did.
don't-
Yeah, you know what? I did not. I said let's stay the course. You're right. There is no motion on the floor. My apology.
That's okay. So, preface, I don't want to give up on this. I think it's a great idea, and yes, the time is short, but we watched Mr. Don do miracles in IT when coronavirus came. I'd like to move that we give it 1 week to have dialogue with the leadership of Santa Rosa County to determine if they would be willing for us to play in this marketplace within stipulations, with the understanding that if this is a free market, I'm not sure that we need a formal agreement. I'm not sure how that works, and the lawyers will have to talk, but I'd like to give it a week to give it a chance for them to say one way or the other. You're right, we don't want to barge in where we're not wanted, but my sense is that the customers like our service and would like to continue it, and I'd like to give it a chance. So my motion is that we give it 1 week of dialogue before we make a determination. And you can answer the second.
I'll second
I
that.
have nothing to say. Okay, the motion is on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr.
I
Stevens.
see,
Yeah,
I
it's
see a second. Thank you. I see a second from Mrs. Stevens. And so now, are there any further discussion?
Yes.
And then I can take the chair. I take the gavel back. I just had to do that to make a motion. Okay. Thank you. Okay, and Mr. Williams, your light is on. I don't know if it was just for that transaction.
Initially, I'm listening. Something that just doesn't seem clear to me is the way we're speaking. We're speaking as if if we want to continue, we can continue. That's the impression I get, but if we're going to withdraw, then we should continue to withdraw. But the decision is ours. That's the way I'm understanding it's being referenced. And so if that's the case, just my comments for the record, I believe in free markets. And I believe in the opportunity to serve those who want your service. But I do not, as Mr. Perkins and Ms. Campbell have expressed, want to devalue our name and reputation with the citizens of Santa Rosa County. So if the opportunity is to serve under free market dynamics in which we can continue, I support. If there's a problem where Santa Rosa County would rather have someone else, then that's their expression to make towards us or in the process. Am I understanding that correctly?
And the nature of the motion, Mr. Williams, is that we give a week to determine if that's the case.
And I'm not necessarily seconding the motion as much as I wanted to understand the dynamics in which Mr. Woody and Mr. Rudd are speaking, whether they're speaking in affirmative ways, if we can continue if we choose to, or abide by the board's wishes and continue to withdraw. I just want to be clear on whether or not that is our choice to continue or whether or not, and I do know it's our choice to withdraw, but I don't know if it's our choice to continue under the open market of franchise agreements.
And Mr. Perkins, I'm going to let Mr. Woody answer. Mr. Woody, you recognize?
Yeah, it is our understanding that we have an existing hauler's permit that allows us to collect in the unfranchised or north end of the county. Mr. Hill has suggested that that's something that we need to firm up with our legal counsel, and I'm sure they'll be asking the same. I think that's part of the due diligence that we'll do over this next week that's suggested by the motion. But given that is sustained, that we have that permit and continue to do so, it would be our hope and recommendation that we compete in the open market. And the time is now to be able to do that because all of our cans are already out there with our customers. A certain percentage may choose to go to one of the competitors, and that's fine because it is open market, particularly those, say, who want to continue twice a week service, for an example. But if our service and reputation remains good and we are financially competitive as well, I think the convenience factor will cause quite a few folks to stay with us.
Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Rudd said that he needs a decision one way or another. He said he really doesn't have time to be in a holding pattern over the airport. So I'd like to ask him, I mean, does delaying the decision for a week make it impossible for him to accomplish his tasks?
Mr. Rudd, you recognize?
Well, I'm never going to say anything's impossible, but it's going to make it a whole lot more difficult.
Okay, I see no more lights, so the motion on the table is we give this issue 1 week for the staff to get with Santa Rosa and to make a determination if it is feasible and if we are welcome. And then I guess implicit in that is the approval to proceed accordingly. Any questions, any more discussion? All right, we're voting. And we need a thumb up or down, Ms. Campbell and Mr. Stevens. Up for Stevens, up for Campbell. So, and it passes 4-1. Thank you for a vigorous discussion, board members. Mr. Hill, thank you for coming. I hope you know we want what's best for both groups, and it takes a little courage to come in, but thank you. Yes, sir, do you want it to be recognized one more time?
Yes, just would like to say thank you to everyone here. I appreciate the discussion and appreciate the opportunity to speak, and also appreciate your staff's efforts as well. Thank you.
And Mr. Rudd, thank you for your willingness to, as you always do, work hard to implement this. I know that it's going to fall on a lot of your sanitation workers over the holidays who are going to be having to pick up or do whatever, and but anyway, we appreciate your efforts. Mr. Woody.
I just want to say before you leave, thank you for pausing a moment. Please pass along to Mr. Murray. We'll be reaching out to him first thing tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Where were we? Does that conclude your report, Mr. Woody?
Yes, it does, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And we come now to our attorney's report, and we have a substitute attorney. Philip, you are recognized. And introduce yourself to the other members who have not met you until today.
Yes, my name is Philip Pugh. I'm Robert Beasley's partner in here on his behalf today. As far as the report, I just want to touch on a bill that is currently pending now, or not pending, but being discussed, I guess, with our local delegation to make some changes to the Enabling Act for the ECUA. It does a few things, including creating a review process, basically, where the Board of County Commissioners or another body may have some review and veto authority over the ECUA's budget. It creates an obligation to do some auditing and posting of those audits, some term limits, and also actually provides for the Board of County Commissioners to even be able to remove an ECUA board member under certain circumstances, felony, drunkenness of all things, a number of, there's some interesting language there, but basically a behavioral kind of scenario. And so we've been asked to take a look at that. We've sent out a memo on it. We're continuing to do that. There'll be more to come. We've looked at the constitutionality and that sort of thing, and our review continues. There is the next step, as we understand it, is a public forum discussion that's going to take place in January. We'll have representatives there with the local delegation to follow that along as this process continues, and we'll keep the board advised.
Mr. Perkins. Thank you, Mr. Pugh.
One thing I saw about it in the paper is that they were planning on getting rid of our Citizens Advisory Committee, and I really value our citizen input and the work that committee does, so I hope that is taken out. And frankly, to me, I think there's some political retribution going on, but if it's just term limits, I'm okay with that. I just don't want the infrastructure of the county to suffer because of it, and I don't want a dysfunctional form of government put in place where you've got a newly created board of unelected people with the power to remove elected people from office. That's a recipe for corruption. I think that's going to really, and to oversee the budget. I mean, you take your elected people, you say, oh, well, we're going to have this non-elected board oversee your budget. I mean, that's, to me, it just doesn't make sense. And so, but the term limit things, I mean, you could ask for term limits. They'd want term limits on any office whatsoever. I mean, the county commission, yeah, let's have term limits. Everybody is in favor of term limits, and I'm okay with that. The concept of term limits, I'm okay. It's not about me or a pre-existing board member, although traditionally when term limits have been put in place, they have not been retroactive. This bill has talked about them being retroactive, which makes it look like it's politically motivated. And so if it doesn't want to look like it's politically motivated and vindictive and designed to support the wishes of big political contributors, then they should not be retroactive. They should be term limits that start when the law goes in place, just like the Florida legislature did when they imposed term limits, and just like the recent constitutional amendment for school board term limits had. They were not retroactive. I don't recall if there's ever been retroactive term limits on elected officials in the state of Florida. I know a condo association law, but I don't think there's ever been a situation where the people vote on the elected representative and then some special
Did they lose us again,
pass a
Vicki?
law that say, hey, you guys have retroactive term limits, we're going to get rid of you. Now, as far as term limits, I'm okay with that. That's my least problematic.
Vicky,
part.
did we lose us?
But all this other stuff about oversight boards and non-elected boards, removing elected people from office, I mean, that's just a threat to the core of democracy, and I'll oppose that with everything I got.
Vicky, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm genuinely concerned about the oversight board, particularly having oversight over our budget. I mean, we are an elected body.
I can hear you, but I
and
can't hear them.
we
Can you
have
hear me?
responsibility for our infrastructure.
I can hear you now, but I can't hear the board.
Because we have debt service, we have
I can't hear the
the
board.
whole infrastructure to our utility, and we could go through the budget process, and come up with a responsible budget and then have it overturned by someone who is not answerable to the people. I think it's a prescription for disaster, and I'm very concerned about it, and I hope it will be removed as this evolves. Ms. Campbell, we're gonna work on it just a minute. Wait just a second, Ms. Campbell. Now I think you can talk.
I didn't hear a thing that Perkins said. It cut off in about the second sentence.
Okay. What was it you wanted to hear, Ms. Campbell? Was it from Mr. Pugh or?
I heard Mr. Pugh totally. I did not hear Mr. Perkins. The sound shut off as soon as he started talking.
Do you want to do a synopsis of what you said? We'll have him reiterate what he said, and I will as well.
So basically, the bill, as I've seen it, has some good points and some bad points. The points I'm okay with and supportive of, we already do a comprehensive financial audit. We already have a management plan. I have no problem with us submitting that to the commissioners. That's no big deal. Term limits, I have no problem with term limits. I think a lot of people support term limits. They're saying 12 years. My personal opinion is it should be 8 years like the legislature and what was proposed for the school board in the Constitution. But, either way it's fine. But the problem I have with term limits is retroactive term limits. That looks like it's politically motivated to appease big political contributors that have wanted to get rid of people on the ECUA board. And when the state did term limits, they did term limits that were not retroactive, specifically stated not retroactive. And when the school board, when they recently had a constitutional amendment proposed for school board term limits, they were also, they were 8 years, but they were also specifically not retroactive. And I was saying that I don't recall a specific situation where any Florida elected officials have had retroactive term limits put on them. Now, there's a condo association that had some, but I don't recall any, and there may be, but I've never heard of retroactive term limits in Florida for elected officials. So that is one thing. The other thing that concerns me way more than the term limits, because the term limits I'm okay with, but the thing that concerns me way more than the term limits is that you would have first they were talking about the county commissioners having oversight of the ECUA budget and can line item budget items and veto and have control of the ECUA budget and even remove ECUA people from office for such subjective things as nonfeasance or malfeasance or things that really they could identify however they want to, and you would have a situation where you'd have one elected body in a county removing another elected body's officials by vote, which is typically reserved for the governor. That's something the governor does. But we're going to set up a situation where in the case of the existing board members who have been here longest and would be most impacted, we've all gotten more votes than the county commissioners who would be voting to remove us in the same districts. So you're going to put up a situation where you've got people who've got less votes than you removing you from office in the same district? And so that didn't go over well. The county commissioners didn't want anything to do with that. So now the theory is that we're going to have a non-elected committee. We're going to get rid of the Citizens Advisory Committee, which I think is ridiculous because that citizen input is extremely valuable and they do a lot of hard work. So I do not favor getting rid of the Citizens Advisory Committee, which is what they were talking about in the paper, and replace that with a non-elected appointed, presumably they were saying by the city council and the county commission, an appointed board that can oversee all of ECUA's budget and remove ECUA members from office in place of the elected ECUA officials. So I'm going to take the voice of the people away and take their elected voice away and give that to an appointed board that gets appointed by people who are funded by special interests? It's not democratic. It's wrong. People need to know about it and they need to stand up about it. And so term limits I'm okay with, but all that other political BS and that retribution for the big political campaign contributors, I'll fight that as far as it goes.
And Ms. Campbell, I thank you for asking him to reiterate what he said. He embellished beautifully on his second time around. Is there any other discussion of this? Who wants to come after Mr. Perkins? Well, Mr. Williams, jump in there.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Madam Chair. My concern is how can we respond as representatives of this board? I have comments to, principally, I don't see how you're going to get the best people to do this job being subservient to any other organization. So that I don't agree with. And term limits, I have no problem with term limits. I think we have term limits every time we go to the polls, as a matter of fact. So how can we respond in a way that would be appropriate as a representative of the board to our representative or to the public?
Mr. Perkins?
Or I guess that's an attorney question more than a Mr. Perkins question.
I think it's more in the political sphere.
Both can
We'll
do
let
it.
Mr.
Well,
Perkins.
you know, we can communicate is the biggest thing. Communicate with our citizens, our ratepayers. There will be a legislative delegation meeting where we can show up and communicate. I don't think we can take action as a board because, you know, we may talk about the situation in public settings and in other settings where, you know, we don't want to have a sunshine issue by taking action as a board. I don't think it's something that we would be voting on, and the attorneys have advised us that it's not something we would be voting on. It's something another body would be voting on. The legislative delegation would be voting on. So I don't think it's appropriate for board action, but we can write letters, we can speak to the newspapers, we can talk to people in our community, and most importantly, speak with the legislative delegation. Encourage the citizen advisory committees to call the representative that's sponsoring the bill and the senator that's in favor of it and discuss with them the work of the citizens advisory committee and what they do. I think there are a lot of things that we can do, and I think it's well intentioned, but I think it's got some negative consequences. But I think the thing that I do is say, hey, yeah, I support term limits. I don't think they should be retroactive. That's politically motivated, but I support term limits. But the rest of the stuff, is not good. So I'm going to just be at that legislative delegation meeting, making my feelings heard. Any reporter wants to talk to me, I'll be glad to talk with them as honestly as I'm talking with you.
And Mr. Williams, what happens with this delegation hearing, and I would encourage you to go as well. It's going to happen on January 20th. And across the state, in each county, there is what is called the delegation to the legislature. So it would be the representatives and the senators who live in that area. And each year they file bills that do not impact anyone in the rest of the state. It only impacts their local community. And they have a hearing and people speak to them about that. And then they take a vote on those local bills. And some delegations require it to be unanimous. Others only require a majority. And then on a given day in Tallahassee during the legislative session, all of those bills are taken at one time. And it really gets no discussion because nobody really wants to interfere in another area's business. And if it's been provided by the local delegation, it's going to pass. So if we want to modify this or to do anything other than what they've said, this is our one hearing, and we can also talk to our representatives, but it's very important. I think that this bill, as it was given to me, is a lot of bad public policy. That to have a non-elected group of people have oversight over elected body and over their budget is a huge problem, and there's some others. And I think there is time to work this out so that it will change and it can be something that everybody can get behind. But we need to be vigilant, and I hope our staff will keep us up to date on any communications in this regard. Okay, I see no other show of hands, so I assume that concludes the attorney's report.
Yes, Madam Chair.
You lost control of that early on, Mr. Pugh. Okay, the next item is item 13A, unfinished business. Mr. Williams, you asked us to discuss bill pay locations, so you are recognized.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the issues that was brought to my attention while on the campaign trail by not only members of my district but others is the location in which they have to come to Ellison Industrial Park to make payments. So my hope would be that we would make that we'd make that easier on those who didn't live on the northern end of the county to have a more centrally located place in which they could pay their bills.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I think Mr. Brown is not here. He might be able to tell us what our options are. Ms. Shelton can come up and tell us what our options are under the existing. We got you covered, Mr. Brown.
You can come up too.
Yeah, just tell us what the options are and how many people use the different options, if you know off the top of your head.
Well, I won't have that statistic, but I can tell you the different options include online bill paying using either check or credit card. And then we also have automatic bank draft. People can request to have that set up so it can we go to the bank and pull it from their account if they've set it up with us. They can also set up at their bank a bill pay process through their bank. Then the bank pushes that to us. We have the ECUA cashiers here at Ellison, and then any of the Hancock Bank branches will also take payments because that's our banking partner, and they have agreed. That was part of the RFP, included that when we went out for RFP for banking services, to have them take payments for ECUA at their branches. The customer doesn't have to have an account at Hancock Bank to pay their bill there. So any of the branches in town, and also in Santa Rosa County, bank branches will take payments.
Okay. That might be useful information, Mr. Williams.
And Randy reminded me, there's also a drop-off box at Godwin Lane.
At what?
Godwin Lane.
Godwin Lane, okay.
Anything else, Dave? That's all. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Sheldon. You good, Mr. Williams? Did you have anything else in that regard?
Thank you for that information. I don't use Hancock Bank, so I'm not sure, but there are multiple Hancock Bank branches in the area.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. That would be interesting.
Okay. And principally, I'm talking about people who pay cash, older citizens. They're not online. If they're asking about this, they haven't established a banking ETF. So it would be those who are coming out here to Ellison Island or Ellison Park to pay their bill would be principally. And if there are multiple, and I can look that up to Hancock banks in the area, there are 5, and I'll take that back and see if that suffices for those who are principally concerned about coming all the way out here paying their bill. Thank you.
I think she wants to respond.
There is a branch downtown on Garden Street. There's one on Airport, I think. 12th Avenue and Airport. There's one on Creighton, I believe, near Davis. There's one in Santa Rosa County. I think that's Pace. There may be one in Gulf Breeze. 9 Mile Road. So that's about 5.
Good.
But I can get you those address locations if you need.
I can do that.
Okay.
I didn't know the service, so that's principally what I was interested in. And none on the west side, though. I didn't hear anything about the west side.
Garden Street.
Okay.
Yeah, downtown.
Okay. Nothing in the Fairfield, no area, west side, Mobile Highway, nothing in that area.
No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and item 14A is also yours, Mr. Williams, recognition of programs for citizens.
Again, as I am speaking to residents, thank you, Madam Chair, first. As I'm speaking to residents in the area, it was brought to my attention by residents how many do work in their community that makes a difference in keeping their communities clean and taking care of other citizens in their community, in addition to not only as individuals, but also nonprofits who do that kind of work. So my initial thought was, what can I do as a ECUA representative for District Number 3? But I am quick to learn that there's also other districts in Escambia County that have to vote on these kind of issues. So the question is, I want to recognize those amongst us who are doing the work that doesn't get recognized by any other organization to make their communities better, by even doing work to make ECUA's job easier. I know one gentleman who for years has moved the trash cans on one side of the road so that the ECA trash driver only has to make one pass, but yet that's just what he does. And in addition to other people who help seniors get their cans out and cut undeveloped properties to maintain the appearance in their communities, then and not to mention nonprofits who do so much to serve so many. I would like to recommend that we have a program that recognizes those who do so much for so many and are not being recognized now, and in the sense of environmental concerns as we are with ECUA.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And I would suggest that you get with perhaps Ms. Natalie Bowers and Mr. Roberts and some of our staff to see if they have some creative ideas to help you with that process. But it's a good idea. It's always good to recognize the people who really do the work. We just sit up here. So thank you for that suggestion. Okay, we come now to board communications. Is there anyone who wishes to communicate anything to your fellow board members? If not, we come to our open forum. Oh, sorry, Ms. Campbell, sorry, didn't see your finger. You are recognized. Give Mr. Don a chance to get the electronics right.
That's okay. I just, I didn't get to speak about the delegation decision, and I wanted to say a couple of words about that. I want to wish you all a very happy holiday season. This board has done some amazing things over the last 8 years, including a 16-year plan of reparation, the compost facility, the recycle facility, all of these things putting us ahead of anyone in the state on recycle, compost, and addressing consent orders. We're not the only facility doing this type of planning for the future, but we're one of the few that put politics aside to do what's right for the people of Escambia County, setting sound policy for the people's welfare. When you don't allow loopholes and you don't beckon to special interests, you're going to make enemies. I can sleep at night with enemies. I just can't sleep at night when I don't think I'm doing the best that I can for my constituents. The board has been addressing the grand jury's assessment for the last 2 years. We've hired a new administrator that is wonderful. I can only pray that he sticks it out here in Escambia County. We've hired an equally impressive attorney who works harder to keep us out of court than in, which is refreshing in my mind. The thing that is left to address is the assessment of term limits. And although I think it's probably my last term anyway, due to redistricting, I'm not a fan of term limits. I agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Williams. I think voters are our term limit. And to take away my vote because one man doesn't like me is just wrong for the voters of Escambia County. I hope that Michelle and the delegation will rethink their decision. I just hope it doesn't come back to do harm to the people of Escambia County, Florida. I have a great deal of respect for the work of my fellow board members, Lois Benson and Dale Perkins. I look forward to knowing Kevin and Larry better over the next 2 years. I hope that you will hold your heads high during this holiday season because you are all good people. And I hope God will bless you and your families. We need to stop putting politicians on a pedestal. We are just people. We are not perfect. We are just people. I thank you all for your servant's heart, and may the peace of the Lord bless and keep you and your families throughout this holiday season. Thank you very much for your time, Madam Chairman.
Beautifully said, Ms. Campbell. We hope you are recovering. You've been in all of our thoughts and prayers over this week, you and your husband, and we're sure glad to see you today here. It's a good sign. Thank you for those words. I wish everyone here a wonderful holiday season. Thanks to each of you for all that you do for your community. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are adjourned.